Welcome back. Namibia continues to face increasing climate challenges, from recurring droughts to food and water insecurity. Last week, key stakeholders gathered for a Commonwealth Climate Finance Writeshop aimed at strengthening the country's ability to access international climate funding. But what does this mean for Namibia, and how soon could we see real impact? Now, joining us is the Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisor, Mr. Chipeta, who facilitated the training. Mr. Chipeta, good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned, you facilitated last week's Writeshop here that took place here in Windhoek. In simple terms, talk to us about what the main goal behind bringing all these stakeholders into one room was.
Thank you so much. Good evening once again, and good evening, viewers. The Commonwealth supports developing countries develop the capacity and capabilities to access climate finance, which basically is required to respond to the devastating effects of climate change. And this is done through adaptation and mitigation. Mitigation basically is reducing the emissions going into the atmosphere, and adaptation is how we do business in agriculture and the different sectors.
Yeah.
So in 2015, of course, the Commonwealth Climate Access Hub was established at the request of heads of state from Commonwealth countries, and this is how I arrived here in Namibia. With regard to the Writeshop for last week, we had 81 participants that came to that workshop, and out of these, 61 were actually ladies, and the rest were male. The objective for this particular Writeshop was to, first of all, equip the participants with skills to prepare proposals for funding. And the second objective was to take them through an experiential learning experience that entailed working through the templates that are required by funding agencies so that we get investment-ready documentation that should be presented before the funding agencies. And to that extent, we had 5 integrated program areas. The first one being loss and damage. As you know, Namibia has suffered the consequences of droughts and floods. And there is lots of property. And in some cases, some lives have been lost. And for the loss and damage work stream, it is basically looking at mobilizing resources to help communities come out of the losses that they've been having and build more resilience. And so that was one work stream. The next work stream was looking at integrated forestry management. The other work stream was looking at renewable energy. The other work stream was looking at food and water. And the other one was looking at circular economy, which basically deals with waste management. Yeah, so out of the objectives that we had, we also worked through the documentation that is required to be filled and submitted to the funding agencies. And so we had those 81 people, and we worked. I can say the progress that was made during that Writeshop, on average, on all the work streams, we are somewhere around 75%. And we hope to finalize this work in the next 2 weeks and be able to submit these proposals to funding agencies, international funding agencies.
In your assessments, Mr. Chipeta, is Namibia, ready to compete for major climate funds, or is there still, gaps that need to be addressed?
Thank you so much for that question. Namibia is ready, far ahead than most African countries. This was the first country that had an investment fund, the Environmental Investment Fund, and it's been a trailblazer in terms of being able to attract different kinds of financing from different funding agencies across the globe. And it's been known for managing the resources in a way that has delivered impact on the ground. Yeah, so in terms of Namibia's readiness, it's well ahead. The work that we've been doing in the country as Commonwealth partly has been to help increase the number of organizations that can access these climate resources, and that is called the accreditation process. So we've supported the readiness activities with support of financial support from Green Climate Fund. We've been able to assist the processes of getting the Development Bank of Namibia to get accredited, and its accreditation is at a threshold of up to 250 million United States dollars. We've also helped institutions through that readiness fund that came through, like Bank Windhoek. We've also helped Agribank to submit, their application for accreditation.
Right.
Yeah, so to that extent, and also the trainings that we are doing to make sure that Namibia has internal capacity. There is no need to have consultants coming from outside the country. We want this capacity to be within the country. And so far, we've managed to build this capacity, like in the last 2 years, about 173 staff members have been capacitated, and they feel confident that they can prepare these proposals.
Should Namibia secure more climate, finance? What does that mean for the communities, especially affected by drought and food security?
Yeah, so to just mention, thank you so much for that. Just to mention that on these proposals that we are working on in the past week, we are looking to mobilizing a minimum of 150 million US dollars. Most of these resources will go to help communities access funding that will help them adapt to climate change. So in places where we have droughts, of course, introduction of drought-resilient agricultural practices, but also to look at opportunities for addressing losses and damages that have happened in the community by having water infrastructure and making sure we are doing irrigation to make sure that we have not just all year round, but several times people are able to cultivate and make a living. So in terms of these opportunities that are coming, they will get to the ground where the people feel the brunt of climate change the most. And mostly the targeting is also deliberate to bring in women, youth, people with disabilities, and we seek to leverage climate financing to address the issues of employment, wealth creation, industrialization, and to also bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots so that together we can be a prosperous nation.
Well, the Writeshop has ended, so what's the next steps from here, just very briefly?
Yeah, the next steps coming out of where we've ended with the Writeshops is that we are working towards submitting the documentation that we've been working on. Like I said, in the next 2 weeks, we should have this ready for submission. The good thing is that even for the concept notes that we have prepared, the member states, they indicated, for instance, to Green Climate Fund, that they wished to have a project preparation facility, which basically are resources that are availed to a country to do feasibility studies, pre-feasibility studies, gender studies, and environmental and social safeguards to make the proposals investable and attractive to the funders. So what will be happening in the next 2 weeks, we will finalize this documentation, and with the support of the nationally designated authority, which is headed by Mr. Mteauli, we should be able to get, under his leadership, the process of submitting these to Green Climate Fund and also to the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage. And when we do that, we'll have sufficient resources within the course of the year that should be able to bring in the rest of the resources needed to do stakeholder consultations in the regions and the other studies. And we hope and plan that the full-fledged proposals should be submitted. The first one on loss and damage, we anticipate by June, it should be able to go in, and the rest of them within the course of the year, they should be able to go in. So sometime next year, we should be able to see a lot of movement and resources on the ground to help our people.
Sounds exciting indeed. Mr. Chipeta, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, we have some more coming up after this very brief break. Stay with us. You're watching the Daily Roundup with Nina here.